Sometimes respect shows up before anyone says your name. It is 9:15 in the morning, and your notebook is still open on the desk after a meeting that ended a few minutes ago. The glass room is quiet now, the screen is still glowing, and one water glass is sitting there half full. Why does the person who speaks less sometimes feel like the steadiest person in the room? This may be the quiet reason people respect listening more than commanding. In this video, I'll slow it down and name why that kind of presence can feel so rare. Listening, in this sense, is not just staying silent. It is the ability to hold the room for a moment before reacting, so your answer comes from what was actually said, not just from the pressure to appear certain. One common reason is learning that the room gives away more than the loudest voice admits. When you sit through enough meetings, you start noticing the small things: the person who looks down before agreeing, the manager who repeats a phrase to sound certain, the teammate who keeps a question in their mouth because the room is moving too fast. Your respect grows because you do not rush past those signals, you gather them, and your answer arrives with the whole room inside it. So when you finally speak, it may sound simple, but people feel that you heard what they missed. It can begin quietly when you have spent time around people who treated silence like a problem. Maybe in past workplaces, family dinners, or group projects, the person who spoke fastest often took the space, and everyone else learned to adjust around them. After a while, you notice that speed can look strong while still leaving people unseen. So you become careful with the pause, not as a performance, but as a small way of giving the room back its air. There's also a quieter reason: listening often grows in people who have been trusted with what others could barely say. You may have been the one a coworker looked at after a difficult call, or the person a friend called from a parked car because they knew you would not rush them into a neat answer. Those moments teach a different kind of weight, the weight of being steady without taking over. So in a meeting, even when the topic is ordinary, you carry that same habit of making space before making a point. And this is where the misunderstanding happens. Some people see command as strength because it is easier to notice. It fills the room. It gives direction. It sounds clean from the outside. But listening has a different shape. It does not always impress people at once. It builds in small moments, like a quiet balance in the background. Think about someone at work who does not interrupt right away. They sit with their pen near the edge of the notebook. They let the last sentence land. They look around once before answering. It can seem like hesitation from far away, but close up, it often feels like care. They are not empty. They are reading the space. That kind of listening can make people feel safe enough to be clear. Not safe in a dramatic way. Just less rushed. Less watched. Less pushed into sounding smarter than they feel. When someone commands too quickly, people often start managing their faces. They nod before they understand. They agree before they are ready. They hide the part of the thought that is not polished yet. But when someone listens well, the room changes in a quieter way. People take one extra breath. They say the second sentence, the honest one. They stop performing certainty for a moment. And often, that is where the useful truth comes out. It's 9:15 again, in that glass conference room after the meeting. The chairs have just been pushed back, leaving slight marks in the carpet, and the last few people are still gathering their laptops. You stay near the table with your notebook open, looking at the line you wrote while everyone was talking. Nobody answered the real concern. Someone turns to you and asks what you think. For a few seconds, you do not answer. You notice the half-finished water, the bright screen, the quiet tiredness in the room, and the way everyone can see each other through the glass while still not really looking. There is a small tightness inside you, the kind that wants to fill the silence fast so no one misreads it. But you let the pause stay for one more breath. Then you say, "I think we solved the schedule," but not the hesitation around it. If you've been there, you're not strange. You might know someone who lives like this. This is what listening can look like when it becomes respect. It does not win the room by taking it. It earns trust by noticing what the room skipped. That moment matters because people often remember how they felt around your presence more than they remember every word you said. A commanding voice can get attention quickly. A listening presence can stay with people longer. It tells them, without announcing it, "You are not just noise to me." That can be rare in rooms where everyone is trying to sound prepared, efficient, and hard to challenge. There is also an emotional contradiction here. The listener may look calm on the outside while something inside pulls tight. The pause can feel peaceful to others, but not always peaceful to the person holding it. Sometimes you are respected for the very thing that costs you quiet effort. You are seen as steady because you did not react, even though the reaction moved through you first. You just did not hand it to the room immediately. That is why listening is not weakness. It is not disappearing. It is not letting louder people decide everything. In many cases, listening is a form of timing. It waits long enough for the first wave to pass, so the better sentence can arrive. It gives the conversation a chance to become more honest than it was at the start. One small way to understand this in your own life is to notice what happens inside the pause. When someone asks for your opinion, your mind may jump toward the fastest acceptable answer. You might feel your shoulders tighten or your fingers move toward the pen, as if the body is getting ready before the thought is finished. A quiet question can help here: what did I actually hear? Then one sentence can come from that. Not the perfect sentence. Just the truest one available in that moment. This works because it shifts the pause from emptiness into attention. You are not waiting because you have nothing to say. You are waiting because the room gave you more than words. The tone, the avoidance, the repeated phrase, the quick agreement, the tired silence after someone's update, all of it may belong in the answer. When you speak from that place, people can feel the difference, even if they cannot explain it. Another gentle way this shows up is through returning one part of the room back to itself. You might say, I'm hearing two things at once, or it seems like the deadline is clear, but the comfort around it is not. A sentence like that does not dominate. It gathers. It lets people recognize what was floating around without turning anyone into the problem. And sometimes that is why people respect it. Not because it sounds powerful, but because it makes everyone less alone with what they were sensing. Of course, listening can also be overused as a hiding place. Sometimes silence is care, and sometimes it is protection. There may be moments when you stay quiet because the room feels too sharp, or because a past experience taught you that speaking brings unwanted heat. That does not make the pause false. It just means there may be more inside it than calm. A person can be genuinely thoughtful and still be holding back. And there's something else here that is easy to miss: the goal is not to become the quietest person in every room. The deeper respect comes from being present enough to know when the room is asking for listening and when it is asking for a clear voice. That is the real difference between listening and disappearing. Listening stays connected. Disappearing leaves the room while your body is still there. Listening notices. Disappearing absorbs. Listening gives space and then brings something back. When people respect your listening, it is often because they feel you are still with them, not above them, not beneath them, not trying to win. So maybe the quiet reason you are respected is not that you always know the answer first. Maybe it is that you let the answer become more honest before you give it. This is for the person who gets respected without taking over the table. The person who can sit in a glass room at 9:15, with the notebook still open and the meeting's heat fading, and hold a few extra seconds without rushing to prove anything. There is a kind of strength that does not announce itself. It listens, gathers, and then speaks with less noise. And sometimes, that is the voice people remember.